Welcome everyone. I'm Laurel Martin, a proud member of the Kata Girl Geeks, or KGG. Today, I want to share a story with you of how the Kata has helped me advance my skills and in turn, helped me help others. The KGG is a global community of women learning to think and act scientifically and aiming to have a positive impact on our world. Kata for Good is a challenge we've been working on. We wanted to share examples of how our members are using Kata to improve their world, whether within their own personal lives, their communities, and within their workplaces. Because we believe this could inspire others to also think and act scientifically. And why is that a good thing? Because it helps you achieve your goals, whatever those might be, and feel good about them. This was my learning group. I was lucky enough to be the learner, supported by my wonderful coach, Julie Cunningham, and second coach, Jenny Snow Boscolo. The first coach primarily helps the learner draw out their thinking, and the second coach helps the coach do the same. This is a little meta, so bear with me, but my challenge that I was getting coached on was about my own coaching. I wanted to do more of it, and I wanted to get better at it. I had seen the KGG learning groups experience great success by following what are called starter kata. Starter kata are small structured routines or protocols to start developing a new skill. Starter kata increase the speed of learning and are especially helpful as we try to develop and scale up a shared way of thinking and working. I had previously been trying to apply the improvement kata to my continuous improvement facilitation and coaching at work, but progress was uneven. And I had to admit, while I was going through the 4 improvement kata steps with these teams, I was really lax on how I was helping people through them. This got me wondering, what if I were to follow this exact process? Would I get better results if I just stuck to these 10 starter kata instead of generally leading people through the IK? I never would have been able to set this kind of challenge without all the live coaching examples and teaching moments and resources this community has made available so graciously. So that's one reason you might want to think about joining the KGG. I had a vision that was bigger than just this one challenge. Since your challenge is time-bound, it can be really helpful to write down that larger vision that it's serving. I didn't want to just be a more effective coach. I wanted to spread these skills of a highly effective improvement method to as many other people in my organization as I could. I wanted others to be able to experience a calm confidence as they approached bold challenges and a way to strive for them so they could experience that feeling of elation that comes from accomplishing something you really weren't sure was possible. My challenge statement in service of what that vision was, wouldn't it be wonderful if by November 18th, 2022, I'm coaching 3 people at my company in the improvement kata. I follow starter kata 3 through 5 to practice and build my coaching skills. The learners follow starter kata 1, 2, 6, and 7. They're proud of their storyboards and feel a sense of enthusiasm and progress so that we create success stories of using the kata to learn and improve, sparking kata curiosity throughout the organization. Once my challenge was set, I set out to grasp the current condition. We won't cover all the steps here, but there are 2 major components to every current and target condition, which are what is the operating pattern and what are the metrics you can track to see how it's performing. If you're wondering what on earth is an operating pattern, this is one example. It shows the steps of what's happening today, what are you actually doing now on your focus process. And typically we want to start these with a verb and keep them very concise and tangible tasks that you could actually see or record on a video. However, that approach was a little tricky because I didn't really think I had a process. But you can't just leave this part blank. That's not helpful. And the thing about the current condition is something is happening. In this case, I was already working with groups or individuals, and I was using certain starter kata, maybe not very intentionally or somewhat sporadically. So I highlighted those steps in teal, anywhere where I was attempting to coach someone. I noted as process characteristics which of the starter kata I was following or not. And this helped me see what was I doing with the rest of my day, if not coaching. Felt like I was interacting with people all day long, but a lot of that was for something else, maybe project meetings or preparing for other meetings. So this mapping the day exercise is a great way to get started if you can't really see your process yet and you just want to observe what's actually happening. The other main component of the current condition is metrics. This picture is from a few weeks later, once I had a bit of data, These are meant to show how did I know whether this pattern was working and that I was getting closer to my challenge. I tracked process metrics, which were things largely within my control, like how many opportunities did I actually have for coaching in a given day, and how many times did I follow a specific starter kata, like the questions card and the coaching record. I tracked outcome metrics like whether the learner updated their own storyboard that day. And one thing I really started to appreciate about the improvement kata, as opposed to other approaches like Six Sigma, is that the emphasis is on understanding the patterns. And you can do that in the simplest way possible with a run chart. You don't need to calculate anything. You don't even need to use Excel. You can just draw it out and see very quickly, how am I doing? And then you can layer in your target line or other simple color coding to help you see the gap between your actual performance and your target. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. What is a target condition? Think of it like the next place you want to be. It's a little less like a milestone and a little more like a picture you would take sitting on a bench at that milestone. It includes these two elements: the operating pattern and the metrics that that pattern produces. This was my final target condition, so I got the chance to set 4 distinct target conditions throughout this challenge. And I'd realized by this point that it wasn't possible for me to follow all the starter kata purely as a new coach with groups. I had to work with individuals. And those individuals had to be people who wanted to learn, whose motivation was learning and applying the scientific thinking. So I needed an operating pattern for getting new prospective learners into that pipeline. And then once I was coaching them, I had specific steps I wanted to emphasize. You'll note that I was no longer tracking my entire day, but just these steps at this point. My process metric was how many people I trained in the starter kata. Did I actually tell them what I wanted them to do and why? And my outcome metric was a feeling. If you recall in my challenge statement, I wanted my learners to feel proud of their storyboards. So I had to actually ask them how they were feeling and plot their reaction to see if I was getting the outcome I was after. On the way to the challenge, I encountered numerous obstacles, which I kept track of in my parking lot. What we're looking for in an obstacle is, what is standing in the way between your current condition and target condition? What's preventing it from performing the way it should? This example was from when I was trying to morph those group coaching opportunities to meet the starter kata. People keep canceling what I expect to be coaching kata opportunities, so I can't run the pattern often enough to achieve my outcome. Fewer encounters mean less time to emphasize learning. What I mean by that is, if you aren't doing starter kata number 4, daily cycles, and you meet maybe once a week or once a month, you need so much more time to catch up on what's actually happened and to plot out multiple next steps that you just don't have time, even in a 45-minute session, to cover learnings in depth. You don't have that chance to slow down, be calm, and just talk about your one small step and really think about it. This particular target condition was all about emphasizing learning, so this was really problematic. I sent reminders to people who I thought were at risk of canceling. I reassured people that they didn't need to have taken their step in order to meet. There is still something to talk about, something to learn, even if you didn't do it. And I reminded learners their steps could be very, very small, or that we could even take those steps during the coaching session. With one learner, we ended up using several coaching sessions that way, and it really got her through grasping her current condition. Her obstacle was that she didn't have any other time for herself or control over her schedule, so that ended up working for her. Another obstacle I discovered is that I didn't have standard starter kata training content that I felt prepared to present. Reading this in hindsight, it feels more like a veiled solution, which we want to avoid, but I have to admit, I really didn't understand why people weren't using their storyboards until I confronted the fact that I hadn't trained them in why a storyboard is necessary and helpful, what exactly it looks like, and how exactly to use it. How did I think they were going to know that? What a smack myself in the forehead moment. So I created the training. There were lots of wonderful resources to draw on from the KGG, the Toyota Kata Practice Guide, and Thilo Schwartz, who you should also check out on YouTube. And most importantly, I trained the starter kata fearlessly. This was a huge mental obstacle for me to overcome. I had really been quite timid about asking people to follow this new practice, which was kind of weird, and new learners might question why it's needed. But hey, this is part of the improvement kata. We know it works. So I started telling people that with confidence. By the end of this challenge, here's what I was able to achieve. These are in the present tense because this was now my current condition on that date of the challenge, November 18th. I was coaching 3 learners. I was following Starter Kata 3 and 5, which are for the coach. And those learners were following all of the learners' Starter Kata. And the Starter Kata were really serving as a wonderful support for all of us, a new coach, me, and all of these new learners. Learners were excited about the progress they were making. They said things like, "I can't believe I was able to do this." I'm happy to report that all 3 of these initial individuals went on to achieve their challenge at the end of their 8 weeks. So what did I learn from this? Using my storyboard, I cataloged about 4 to 5 learnings every single day, but as I stepped back and thought about the ones that were the most powerful, this is what stood out. Okay, this sounds simple, but number 1, always look for the gap. What exactly is different between your target condition and your current condition, including both your operating pattern and your metrics? Number 2, when we explain the reasoning and train the Starter Kata fearlessly, people who want to learn will follow them. We just have to ask. And number 3, feelings can be used as data. And I'm no longer afraid of asking people how they feel, because what I really want is for people to feel that this was a positive experience so that they'll seek to learn more. In fact, the subsequent evidence I've seen is that people are even more engaged with their challenge and more proud of themselves if we're talking about how they feel and measuring it throughout. Now, why does this matter? How does this do anyone any good other than me meeting my own challenge? Well, teaching others in this rigorous way grows learners and coaches' skills more quickly. It takes the mystery out of continuous improvement, which allows more people to embrace and practice it sooner and more often. If we think about the lean principle of create value for the customer, just as in a production line, we wouldn't want to make the customer wait until the product is perfect and risk not meeting their needs at all. We want to give them something that works, that will meet their needs, that they can start benefiting from now. These patterns also simplify the coaching conversation. Again, I come back to a key lean principle, respect for people. Having these standards in place demonstrate transparency. They help learners see the logic you're using, and they prevent surprises. All of this lowers anxiety that people may otherwise feel when being coached. We know exactly what to expect and why it's happening that way. Finally, all 3 of these learners made incredible progress and incredible learnings and a great sense of satisfaction against something that mattered to them. And I hypothesized that you could do this too. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this story. We hope that it inspires you to use Kata and scientific thinking to pursue big, important, seemingly impossible challenges. The best thing about this challenge was it forced me to get real with myself and to move from this general sense of being a little disappointed in my coaching to a very specific set of steps I was going to do and outcomes I wanted to see. One meta learning is be transparent with those you're working with. If there's something you need them to do or a way you want them to work, don't just wish for it. Ask them for it explicitly, explain why, and then go try it together. Oh, it just buoyed my confidence and it gave me this sense that no matter what the conversation, if you bring scientific thinking, clear words, and respect for people, you will get to the outcomes you want. Might be kind of scary, but those brave conversations will be so much more productive. Thinking and acting scientifically in pursuit of a better outcome can be done on anything from writing business proposals to learning how to bake to walking your dog. My favorite thing about the KGG is our bravery and optimism. There's no judgment, there's no hidden agenda. It's all about helping each other improve our own worlds by developing new skills and capabilities.